Welcome to the Renegade Yogi Podcast Experience. Join myself, Zorananda, and this episode's guest as we explore yoga in the modern world. Prepare yourself as we will experience yoga like never before. Hello and welcome to the Renegade Yogi Podcast Experience. My name is Zorananda. I'm here with a good friend of mine who I met through the yoga community, through particularly Prana and other events around the city. And I'm just so happy to be able to talk about everything yoga and more with my friend here. So give it up for Shrina Patel.
Hi. No, it's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Yeah, I've just been kind of on a mission with this podcast to reach out to people in my life who have had a meaningful impact. And, you know, looking back at all the events and everything that you've done, it's always been so inspiring to see how passionate you are in it, right? And it's been just a staple of your life throughout your entire life. Mm-hmm. So it's so good and cool to see Dharma in action, you know, and like living one's karma directly. And it's just so clear. And I'm sure at times challenging, right? Mm-hmm. It's not always going to be so easy.
That is most definitely true. And thank you for saying that it's my Dharma. Like, to me, when I hear that, especially teaching in the West, that's always like, when I hear that, it's like a nice reminder that, yes, this is my path. And it's really easy, like you're saying here, it's to stay on that path is really challenging at times, especially when you're teaching here in the West, because you're dealing with so much yoga that is capitalized, commercialized, appropriated. Not to jump right into it, but that's what makes it a challenge.
That's definitely the core of this conversation, right? And that's something really important, I think, to have people understand when taking on a practice, right? And I think it's any practice and where it comes from, and that there are traditions in it that are really important to learn and to the best of your ability to uphold, right? Yeah. Because that is the cornerstone of that tradition, right? That's what kept it alive for so long. So in my mind, I'm happy and I'm grateful to have come to that realization and be able to have the opportunity to really witness it, right? Going to India or even going to Thailand, you know, wherever I've traveled over the world. But predominantly, and like really touching to me was going to India, you know. I actually cried when I landed the first time.
I was just going to ask you, I don't think I've ever heard you tell the story of you going to India and studying. Like, we were just chatting a little bit about why you called the podcast Renegade Yogi. So I wonder if you could like give me a little
of course,
sneak peek
into your life. I started yoga when I was in university, and that was like 2009, 2010. And prior to even getting into the practice, I was already studying just metaphysics in general, right? Just the mind, philosophical, new age, energetic stuff, right? And I stumbled upon the chakras, and that's what catapulted me into wanting to know more about yoga. Because I found on the internet there was a limitation on really what the depth is in its understanding and its history and its tradition. And so that curiosity is what led me into, okay, I got to study yoga more. And my good friend Chris, like, you know Chris.
I do know Chris.
We have this parallel life of studying yoga. Like, we've been friends since we were 4 years old. So he was a huge catalyst into getting me to actually commit to it more. And so
that's such a lovely friendship.
Yeah, and what that led to was discovering prana, because Chris invited me to a 30-day sunrise challenge.
Oh yeah.
And so that was back in 2011, and we did the 30-day challenge, and I think almost near, it must have been just one of the few days, right, that I was there, I noticed a picture of Vishwaji, right, when he's in this seated pose where his feet are folded up in his stomach, and he's going like this,
and he's got the most blissful, happy face,
and there's a moon over it, right, the full moon. I
totally seen that picture.
And I looked at Isabel and asked, who is this guy? And she laughed. She's like, oh, that's Vishwaji. That's like the teacher. That's our teacher, right? And he, he leads the 200-hour training. I just looked at her and I was like, yeah, I'm going to that one. And I just decided right then and there. And I had no idea how it was going to happen.
Wow.
And that action led into a synchronicity of kind of carrying that forward, of just not knowing if I was going to make something happen or not, but just trusting that. I had a couple of yoga teachers teaching out of my apartment downtown, and we just had a few different students, and they were teaching the Agama yoga that is out of Thailand, right?
Okay.
And they were super lovely folks, and, I was learning so much about myself. I had this really surreal experience of doing Trikonasana, triangle, but way differently. Like your feet are parallel with each other, and they're not that far apart.
Okay.
And you're just like this, and your hand is floating, and your arm is just up, and you're kind of on an angle. And
it's really intense through the
sides. So we hold it for like 5 minutes on each side.
Wow.
Yeah, Agama was really intense.
That's intense. Yeah.
That was the most intense yoga I've ever done. Hours of it, of
and then
doing
you did
postures
yin.
like that.
No,
yeah. And so I broke my arm when I was 16, and at that point, I didn't really heal it properly. And when I was doing that posture, I felt this warmth right in the middle that almost turned electric. It was like a little ball that suddenly just like burst, and it dispersed all the energy in my wrist. And it completely changed. All the tension,
all that locked energy
just totally dispersed. And from that point in my yoga journey, I was unlocking these kind of levels of having these experiences that led to more deeper internal realizations and those unlockings, right?
Yeah.
And so that happened all in the same year. So 2011 to 2012, right?
Wow,
so I
year.
decided to go to Thailand, and I decided to do Teiju training, which both happened because of the work that I was doing, right?
2 trips in 1 year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I went to Thailand for 2 months and went to the Agama school and met the Swami there, which is super controversial now because that dude is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so sad to see, because when I went there, it was at its almost like golden age of being a school. That he had so many beautiful teachers and amazing people that were actually really advanced in their yoga asana and practice, right?
It's very unfortunate.
Yeah. And that is where my more in-depth philosophy of yoga came in, that I was learning so much about all the chakras, how to use the bija mantras, how to use the meditations, like the asanas associated with all of them, and how to focus on it and stuff. And then the pranavayus and koshas and so much more, just in 2 levels, right? There's 24 levels that are month-long levels. But I went from that to the Akhanda 200-hour teacher training, and then met Vishwaji, and then that's where everything changed, because I had this comparison between the Swami there, who's just some Romanian man, and Vishwaji, who's like, a legit like Himalayan yoga PhD master,
And you can like follow that lineage.
Yeah.
And that's like so important to like know the lineage, right? So then because there's so many issues, not to
No, go ahead.
It was, you just hear about this so much where all these like swamis and gurus they're just abusing their power. Essentially, it is power, right?
And
when people
exactly
come to you, they come to learn, they come to like be part of something bigger. And if you've been given with this, if you've been gifted this knowledge and you have a responsibility to pass it down, like one, make sure you're the right person for this. Like you have to check in with yourself first.
That's right.
You can't just go to anyone. But when people are in that vulnerable position in their life, they're going to people who say and claim that they have this knowledge.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's really unfortunate that some people are having these experiences, because it does cast a really a very terrible shadow on all of yoga, or all like, and it doesn't just happen with yoga. Like it happens in so many different practices, so many different like pathways of leading back to yourself is, anyways. But I'm really happy you got into Akhanda. You met Vishwaji. Like, I'm really, really happy you had that journey.
The synchronicities just kept going, right?
Yeah.
And the powerful moment in the 200 hour was the last week, where we go out for a retreat, and Vishwaji comes and he teaches the last week. And there was one day I didn't go because I wasn't feeling well. And in the prana program, you have 2 days that you can miss, otherwise you have to you don't get your diploma, whatever, you have to make up afterwards.
That's right.
Where I had 1 day left and I wasn't feeling well, and I just thought to myself, you know what, it's the kosha class day, like I know it well, I'm gonna take this day to like sleep in and rest, right?
Yeah.
And this is at 5 a.m, where you get up and you go to the meditation, and then you do the yoga class. And
it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I fall back asleep. Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
I immediately wake up, and my door to my room is open, and it's like midday, and the sun is coming in, and I can see the rolling hill of the plain and the trees and everything. And these 2 butterflies go by. And suddenly Vishwaji is standing at the foot of my bed, and he's wearing all white robes, and he's like gleaming white light. And I look at him and I'm like, Vishwaji, what are you doing here? And he just puts his hand out and he's like, come. And it was just so intense. But the part of me that decided to go to bed because I was sick kicked in, and I was like, no, Vishwaji, I can't go to your class, I'm too sick. And he just let his hand down. He's like, closed his eyes, and it was gone. And I woke up, and I was like, oh, no way. As if I didn't just go with him. Like, oh, I was so distraught at myself. And I wake up, and I'm like, holy shit, the door closed, Yeah. It was totally a dream, like a full-on lucid dream. I look at my clock, it's 6 o'clock, right when the class is starting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? This is just too intense right now. I'm just going to go back to sleep.
I just got to sleep it off.
Yeah. And I wake up later, I go to breakfast, and I wait until lunchtime because he'll go to his room for Shavasana, right? He takes a little nap. And I catch up to him, and I'm like, hey, so I had this dream this morning that you came to me and you were like wearing these white robes and you told me to come with you out somewhere. I was like, did you do that? And he laughed and he's like, no, I didn't do that.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, no, I noticed that you weren't there. So I thought, oh, I wonder if he's okay. I hope he's okay. And it just blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, you just thinking that if I was okay, you know, put me into this.
That also speaks of like I don't know if you remember him saying this, but he makes this joke of his like Wi-Fi signal with his students.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, once I give you a name, this is like a Wi-Fi that's established. And I remember looking at him and being like, what? And then knowing that this is like, it's legit. Like, I have felt like, especially like before yoga class or after, I know the very first workshop I ever taught, it wasn't even in Edmonton, it was in BC. And I remember just thinking, like, before I walked into my class, I was like, I am so nervous. I haven't taught a class. This is my first class I'm teaching since like my teacher training. Oh my God. And then like, I just like kind of connected, and I was just like, Vishwaji, like, I need you to just like send me something. I don't know, but I'm reaching out. Like, send me a blessing or something. And he literally, all I heard him say was, "Why are you worried? Hurry home." I was like, yes, all right, let's do this. I got this. And it was just his way of saying, like, you already know that you have this. This is within you.
Yeah.
It's always been within you, Shrina. Like, you just need to, like, now you must walk the path. Yeah. It's great that you know this, be aware of this, and now do the thing that you're here to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so beautiful that you have that journey in Akhanda yoga. It's like it was like your next step. It's like you needed to be there to understand what was being unblocked in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the challenging thing was that I learned so much from both schools, and so I considered both of them my teachers in a sense at that time. And luckily, I was given more opportunity to actually see Vishwaji more because he would come to Edmonton every year, right?
That's right.
And it wasn't until I went back in 2016 to Thailand that I saw everything crumbling apart, and I saw how corrupted everything was. And it's really this twisting of influence because of how that school is using Tantra, right? And so much came to light of all of his corruption, right? And so when I was there, I had this amazing opportunity to split from it seamlessly and harmoniously because the island itself is so powerful. It's a giant rose smoky clear quartz island. That's what the island's made out of.
We're definitely going to talk about this after.
Yeah. So anytime I went there, it was very clear because I was already working with crystals and I had this in my awareness that your actions are guided subtly by all this resonance of these crystals, right? And so it has this really beautiful supportive energy in what you're clearly doing. So when I went there specifically for yoga and uncovering in myself what yoga means, I had this beautiful experience of just deep peace and transformational experiences. And when I went the second time, that wasn't there, right?
Wow.
Because the school, because the school just fell apart, right? And it was upholding that at that time, right? That was the catalyst. Yeah. And largely because all the senior teachers left, right? And they were the pillars, and so the whole thing crumbled. And so I had this beautiful opportunity to shift into a different yoga studio and teach out of there and meet a whole new group of people.
Oh, that's great.
And then decide fully, yep, Vishwaji is my teacher, right? And this school is acting as a catalyst to like uphold the goodness that it is, right? And I noticed that this cycle appeared 4 years after doing the teacher trainings, that then I had another opportunity to go to Thailand, which I did, and then the next opportunity to do the 300 hour. And so I ended up doing both in the same year again 4 years later.
You love the condensed, like,
yeah, I tuned
into
it so clearly. It's just, there's this 4 year cycle. I don't know what it is. I think it's just yoga itself, and I'm just gonna go into it. Yeah. And then then that was the next level of doing the 300 hour and meeting amazing people out there and perpetuating these strings of synchronicities, right? And so I have so much gratitude for what it's done to change my life, right? Because I went to India twice, or once more after that, right? So in total, I went there twice, and I have one more to do. So they also have a apprenticeship program, so you can come and teach the 200 hour and 300 hour, and it actually helps you build this like 1,000 hour package. This is how I'm just kind of thinking about it in my mind. It's not really so official where you'll get a certificate that you did these like 1,000 hours of teacher training assistance, but I kind of view it that way because then ultimately I do want to teach teacher trainings, right? I'm like re-emerging on my path of yoga and wanting to teach it, but in a way that is still aligned with Akhanda yoga and the principles that it upholds, right? Because I think in a new wave of yoga that's coming, Vishwaji is a huge part in catalyzing the truth and the goodness and wholeness, right? And
delivering a whole yoga, like a whole yoga approach, not like here are the asanas, or this is separate from this. It's like yoga is all of this.
Yeah. And so what I was able to do in both schools is that I noticed that, yes, in the Agama program, it was much more in depth. The Swami actually did a good job in packaging the yoga together and systematizing how and when you learn each chakra and about the koshas and pranavayus and then kundalini and everything about kundalini. But then there's Vishuji, who is the more wholesome space holder of how the system grows, right? And so it's so much more inspiring to be on the side and allied with someone who is clearly on the dharmic path of healing humanity rather than just taking from the system, right? Because that's, I think, what the fault is in yoga, is that people are putting their personality and their ego into it, and they're taking out of it what they can benefit from it, right? Rather than devoting yourself to it and absolving yourself into it and becoming what it is that is goodness for humanity, right? And that's that's just where I've gone to. And there's challenges. We live in a weird world.
yeah, that's a great way to put that. Yeah. It's tough to absolve yourself completely when you're here, though. Like when I look at Vishwaji's life and what he's able to do, I think a lot of it is, where he is, his environment. And also, like, he has been studying this for years. Like, this has been his path since he was like 14 or something, right?
Even earlier.
He
was like 6. He tried to run away from home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But he started it when he was 8.
Yeah. And I think it's once you're kind of like on that path and you've built a foundation and you've built an organization, and there's a part of your service, a really big part of your service that is going to nonprofit organizations. I think he is that thing that he has set out to do. And it's been a lifelong journey, and it continues to be so, but he's immersed himself completely in it. I think here in the West, like when we are teaching, we're trying to pay bills and trying to just,
exactly.
and be part of the society and contribute in this way. Like I always try to look at it like, okay, I can't, because that's something that definitely, that was actually a question that came up in our teacher training on our very last day. He was like, do you guys have any questions, like any concerns about teaching? And I said, like, I have this fear, and a lot of us have shared the same feelings, that when we go back, we may revert back to our older self. Because here in this space, in this environment, in the ashram, we have found a part of ourselves that was always there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it's the ashram bubble, right?
Yeah.
They talk about that too.
It's like that vibrational frequency that you were talking about in Thailand. It's like you build that, but when you come back into your former environment, you didn't leave a vibrational frequency of that same sort that the ashram carries. So now you're coming back and you are having to cultivate that on your own first before launching into fully teaching.
Yeah.
And that is something that I remember when I first came, and everyone was like, oh, when do you teach your first class? And oh my God, teach us everything you learned at the ashram. And I was like, I honestly cannot wait to impart this knowledge and to guide students into themselves, into this journey within. But I need to create that space here for myself. So then I can always continuously raise my vibration and connect with this frequency that I found in the ashram, and do it in my home, do it for myself, and then be able to, guide people properly through that.
Yeah.
Because if I can't do that for myself, who am I to go and teach? Because like you're saying, I'm not teaching yoga, or I'll speak for myself, but it aligns with what you were saying. I'm not teaching yoga to take something from it.
Yeah.
Through my yoga journey, I have discovered something. And I want to impart that discovery, or at least guide people to their own inner discovery. I want to be that teacher that does that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to help you get into a headstand and be the best looking yogi or yogini. It's not my job, and it shouldn't be anyone's job. Like if that's your goal, there are people out there who will help you, but I know from what I've learned that the true meaning of yoga is to journey within and find that light and love that we all hold within ourselves into our souls, and then bring that on the outside, on the surface, and then work with that energy all day, every day. And that's a real challenge in the world we live in.
Yeah, it is. And what I liked to do whenever I, went to the ashram or went on a yoga journey to come back is feel that I'm sharing that resonance, that I know it's temporary because I just spent, months in this place, living the lifestyle of that place and absorbing all the information and everything.
Yeah.
That when I get back, it's like there's an offloading. And that in that time, there's opportunities and decisions to make, right? And I think especially coming out of a teacher training where what made sense for me was just to get right into it. And that just came from the progress or the kind of steps that I took before coming into the teacher training, that I've already went to this other yoga school and spent 2 months there. I spent a couple years already practicing. And so I built myself up to the point where the teacher training made sense for me to be like, okay, I'm going into teaching now. And
yeah, that's right.
and so, yeah, especially going to Thailand and back for the first time. That was the first time I ever left the continent, right? And I just did it by myself. I just booked all my stuff and met my friend on the island. I had to figure it all out. But that time where you come back or you come out of a training like that and you have this wisdom and it's at the forefront of your mind, and you have all this knowledge, that there's that moment of deciding like what is best for myself. And that's so beautiful about the yoga practice, is that it gives you the opportunity to have that space for that realization. And though teaching is a whole other level of learning, right? And that's where I think the kind of crucial step is of deciding not to take from yoga, right? Because in teaching is where all the monetary stuff comes. That's where the business stuff comes, right? Like that's where the decision to actually have an exchange comes. And the last 2 years, or at least the last year, really brought on my questioning of all that, and really understanding what yoga is for me, because having injuries and not being able to do yoga, and then feeling guilty that I'm not doing yoga and that I should be doing more yoga. And then just this cycle of, oh, well, I need to do yoga because I need to get to this kind of flexibility to these postures. And then suddenly I'm getting injuries, because of how that reflects. And it's really only been in the last few months where I'm really dedicating to healing my body, that yoga has just been butting up just in my days. I just decide it, and I had this rigid kind of grip of I only need to do it in the morning. I have to do it in the morning.
Yeah.
That suddenly now I'm just finding that after work, I have this 30-minute window where I can just stretch and do some yoga. And seeing that new relationship develop has been so beautiful. And a whole new world of viewing yoga has opened up, right? Of just how I want to offer it, and what I look for when people want to learn from me, right? So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and it's with me for the rest of my life. That was a really challenging realization for me, but then easy at the same time. It's one that dawned on me because of someone I met at this is another string of synchronicities. This is so fun. So in 2012, I also went to a festival out in BC in like September.
Which one?
It's called One Big Tree.
Okay.
It was just a one-off one out by like Cherryville and Summerland and Peachland in the Okanagan.
That is a beautiful location.
And I met this woman who looked at me and said, you have yoga that runs deep within you. And I was just like,
I just came back from a trip.
Okay.
How did you know?
Little did I know, she was a huge part of the like Tantra community in Copenhagen. So 4 years later, when I went, I saw her on the island, and I was like,
That's so
what?
funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that was a huge catalyst in me wanting to make a decision that really crystallized my commitment to it. That got me in a lot of trouble at first. And that was tattooing Shiva on my arm. And this is what really opened up cultural appropriation for me.
Okay.
And I realized that doing something like this is to be taken seriously, personally, in a devoted way, right? And to mark on myself a reminder that the world of yoga is so vast that it encompasses my entire life. And it goes beyond that. And what I didn't realize is that when I started coloring Shiva blue was on the Guru Purnima and like the Shiva moon. And that was the sign for me that it was like, this is the right decision. And so when I talked to some friends, I had like a really specific conversation about why adding Ananda to my name is appropriation and, you know, having the tattoo. And it gave me the opportunity to just listen and sit with someone who has a strong opinion and is correct in everything that she's saying about what I did, right? And what came out of it was the ability to tell my story of the experiences that I've had, to see it as an initiation into the depths of yoga that I will need my entire life to go into, right? And that, you know, the desire for Ananda came out of a meditation of, and I know this sounds intense, but it's like, but Babaji, you know, from Yogananda's lineage, like Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar, guided me and told me to add Ananda because it unveiled to me just the meaning of my name Zoran, right? Zoran is dawn, it's sunrise in Serbian. And that Ananda adds and turns it into a kind of mantra where Zoran is actually masculine and feminine. So Zora is the feminine version of the name for sunrise, and adding the N is masculine. And so my name can be the rise of masculine and feminine, or the sunrise of masculine and feminine. And then Ananda is just bliss, right? Yeah. And that was really powerful for me because it allowed me to look at my name in a whole new light. Because growing up, I got a lot of criticism for my name because I was the only Serbian person in my school as a kid, right? And everyone that I was around was like a Rob and a Derek and a Mike and a Chris, you know? It's like typical, like typical, you know? And so I just always had this element of isolation from people immediately growing up, right?
I'm sorry you had that. That's something as a colored person I definitely recognize.
Yeah. So what it led to, though, was me realizing that I have the word Ra in my name, like Egyptian sun god. So that was the first key for me to be like, oh, my name is super fucking cool. And then learning my last name, that Glamoch is an old city in now Bosnia, and that my family, my history of my dad's side of Glamochlias come from Glamoch, and that they left, and that the Lia is like a suffix as someone who lived in Glamoch, right? So it's like an Edmontonian, right? And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and so the Ananda edition was my first kind of initiation into this like yogihood.
Yeah, it's a self-initiation into the journey that you're now on.
So when I went to the 300-hour teacher training, we got names, right? Have you done the 300-hour?
No, this is at Akhanda.
Yes.
So
okay.
They give names now at 200.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, sweet.
So I did get a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so after, 3 or 4 weeks of the training, we get your name ceremony. And Vishji gives me a card with Rama and why am I forgetting her name? But anyways, it has the writing of the names of my name right there on the card, right? And I look and it says Divakarnand. And I'm like, Divakarnand. And I look underneath and it says Bliss of the Sun. And I look at Vishji and I look at the card. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm like,
did you know? Did you do research? How did you know?
I look at him like, did you know that my name means sunrise? And he's like, ha ha ha, no. I'm like, of course you didn't. And like Leela and Krishna Mukti were just like laughing. They're just like, oh my goodness.
So funny.
And it just gave me shit like chills, I was just like, oh my God, how does this guy know? Right?
Yeah.
I've never told him that. I never told him the Ananda part and why I added it to my name and how it means sunrise, So I was just thinking about the other day. I was like, my yogi name is Zorananda Divakarnand, which is bliss of the sun, bliss of the sun.
So you gotta like almost like shorten it. You gotta figure out like a nice little comeback. Put them together.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I still feel intimidated by that name, Divakarnand. And I know I'm going to adopt it eventually. I use it as a mantra. When I do my practice. I was just going to say, I'm like, did he mention to do it as a mantra? No. To connect to it? No, he didn't. Yeah, so the way that we do any of the mantras, like Om Somaya Namaha, right? Like you do like one bead, you say with a full breath. So the way he had guided us to connect with our names better, if some of us found it a little difficult to connect with, to say it fully on the mantra bead as you inhale and as you exhale, you say it in the one breath, elongate the whole thing, and then do that for 108 times to connect with it and do it as a daily practice. So you know that this is your name. Yeah. It is your spiritual name. And it's so funny. Oh my God, I have so many thoughts. Okay. When I got my name, I cried. Like it was such an instant reaction. It wasn't, I looked at it, I read it, and then there was just, I felt that same sensation of just like shivers, and then there were just tears. Aww. And everyone, like the entire school was just like hushed, and they were just like waiting. They're like, what did she get? What's her name? Why is she crying? What is happening? Yeah. And I can feel like Leela behind me and like all the teachers, and they're all like waiting. And Ila Devi was kind of like, I got really sick at the ashram too one night, and I missed the Kundalini class. And I'm gonna like backtrack a little bit. And I remember like in the middle of the class, like everyone is doing all their bij mantras, and they're doing like really loud, like Vam, and like everyone is doing this, and I'm in this deep fever. Like my body is like hot and cold. I am sweating profusely, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. I have been so safe. Like I don't know what happened, but I got sick on the one morning doing Kundalini, the first day. And I'm like, that's a weird sign. Okay. And I just hear them doing all these bij mantras. And because they're on top, right? Like the ashram, the studio is on the top and all the rooms at the bottom. Yeah. Their vibrations, and they're saying it so loud that it's like vibrating through and hitting me as I'm laying there in bed, like eyes wide open. And I'm like, I can do this. I can make it to class. I'll walk in, I'll stagger it, and they'll let me in. It's okay. And I remember like I'm sweating through my clothes, the sheets, and I'm like, I'm sick. And I'm like, no, Shrina, you have to like, the way you're going to attend this class is by closing your eyes and going into meditation as they do their bij mantras. This is the way you're going to get this vibration. Yeah. There's no other way for you. So I was like, okay. And so you can still be there and you can still participate, right?
I am still somehow there. Yes. Yeah. I have no idea what they're doing, but I can hear it all, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I can downloading everything I can. And Ila Devi came and checked up on me, and I remember just like just sobbing, and I'm like, I can't believe I missed a class. And she's like checking my temperature, and she's like, I don't think you could have made it, Shrina. Like, I think it's okay. And I'm like, but I didn't want to anyways. And it was so dramatic. And she was like, well, there's another one coming up. You'll be okay. And of course, like by dinner time, starting to feel a little bit better. And Ila Devi has dropped off some medication. And I run into Vishwaji and he's like, you didn't come to class. And I was like, oh my God, did no one tell you I was really sick? And he's like, how sick? And I was like, I was really sick. And he was like, okay, but you can't miss the next one. I was like, I won't miss the next one. And he's like, Shrina. And he just kind of gives me this look like he's like this parental figure. And he was just like, what happened? You're supposed to be in class. Like I literally saw you the other day. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But when he gave me my name, it was so beautiful. I read the card and it's like, you know, Shrina Patel on one side. And there's like a picture of Radha and Krishna and they're intertwined. And I turn it over and I gasp. And my hand like flies up to my mouth and there's just instant, I'm like shuddering and crying. And I look at him and he's like just beaming. Like he's like, I have picked the right name. Hurry up. Like he's so excited.
Yeah.
And then he's like, read it out loud. And I'm like, Krishna Abba.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow. And it's like the bliss and love and radiance of Krishna. And my mission is to spread the consciousness of love and light. Yeah. And I was so blown away. And I know he kind of knew about my upbringing, like how I was very devoted to the Krishna lineage and whatnot. Krishna is actually not, but what he doesn't know, and like I think he kind of knew through conversations, but and I think he does kind of know actually. But my first connection was with Lord Shiva when I was very, very young. Like I was probably 7 or 8, my first trip to India ever as a little girl. And my family, my mother's side is very devoted to Lord Shiva. Like we do all the fasts, all the pujas, like we do all the Samvar months and everything. So yeah. And I was a little girl and I was doing this offering to Lord Shiva, and we have this like beautiful picture of Lord Shiva and Parvati and Ganesh, like in my mother's home back in India in Batapur. And I was doing the offerings and like, you know, doing my thing. And I went to go touch the picture and I just felt this like current, like go through my fingers, like almost like someone like shocks you. And I felt that current and I pulled my hand back and like the flower fell out of my hand. And I remember just like looking at my hand and looking at the picture, and I was so young. And I was like, oh no, I've never shared this story out loud with anyone. I was like, oh no, like, did I do something wrong? Like, was I punished? Like, what happened? Like, what did I do? And I, you know, like as a young girl, like you hear so much about different teachings and the different stories, and you're just like, you're confused. So anyways, I asked my grandma. My grandma's like, she like literally just like lightly patted me on the cheek, her like playful slap. And she's like, silly girl, like that was Lord Shiva connecting with you. She's like, it's happened to other people in our family.
Oh,
and I was like,
goodness.
And I didn't find that out till like 10 years later.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't know what happened. I did something wrong. I'm not going to tell anyone about it. Like so silly. And then like years later, I hear that story and my grandma's like, yeah, it's like, that's why our family is so devoted to Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised that this has like happened to you.
Yeah.
And like, and during that time when I thought that like, I was like, you know, I was a very religious child because of my father. My father's a very religious man. And fast forward, I got really into Krishna consciousness and I devoted my life to that. Like my teen years and everything, I became a Sunday school student, and then I got promoted to teacher, and then I was just imparting this knowledge of the Krishna teachings, but not in a way, because I was a little bit of a renegade myself, and I didn't really believe that there was, I will never believe that there was one path for everyone, for anyone, sorry, I should say. I believe the path that will help you open up your heart and feel compassion towards humanity is the path for you.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. And if that means a multitude of paths and you're picking from here and there, but you're respecting all of it, you're not, you know, using it for your own means to like get to fame and fortune or whatever it is that you're doing, that is not the way of the path.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's a tangent, but I remember being so committed and I would teach my students this too. It wasn't part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
But I was like, here's something you need to know. Yeah. I was like, here's what I think of this, and here's what you need to learn. I would just impart whatever I wanted to impart.
Yeah.
And I would direct and produce and write plays.
Oh, wow.
So the kids would perform the curriculum that we had learned over the year every year on Janmashtami. And it was like this thing that our community looked forward to. Yeah. I'm not even kidding you. It was such a grand production. Like we had costume changes. My brother would do all my voiceover edits. There was like, I would mix my music.
Wow.
The parents would help build props. So then the stage was like filled with props. And I'm like, we have side wings that we'd set up. Like it was this whole thing. And the show would be a full hour.
Yeah.
And these kids we would rehearse. I would get them into character. I was into drama at that time too. So we would like fill their cup. They would get into character. Someone would be Yashoda. Someone would be Krishna. Someone would be the Gopi. Like we would like have all these like stories and we'd play them out. Mm-hmm. And then behind every story at the very end, we would share the knowledge that is imparted through these leelas.
Yeah.
Right? Like Krishna is here, but he's imparting this greater divine knowledge. And yeah, the story is fun and he's like, teasing and he's having all this fun, but there's a deeper truth to this. And so we would kind of get down to that. And that's just what I was imparting. So when Vishwaji kind of picked that name, I kind of looked at him and I was like, oh my God. I was like, why did you pick Krishna though? And nothing associated with Shiva. And he said, because your first real step onto this path was through your association with Krishna. Like as soon as you stepped into that, everything else started happening. Like I showed up at Prana Yoga.
Yeah.
And although like yoga is something that I was learning from my dad, like all the foundations and the philosophy of yoga was taught by my father. When I came to Prana, I was like, oh, asanas. And I watched my dad do all this stuff, but he didn't know how to impart that part. He didn't know how to impart the practice of the asanas. Yeah. But he could teach me the philosophy, which I got from, going to the temple, being raised in that environment, and then being raised by my father in that, our lineage of like passing down Hinduism and all the stories, the mantras, like all this beautiful practice. And then fast forward, I get to the ashram and I'm like, oh, I already know all this. I'm just here for the asana stuff. But Vishwaji just did such a beautiful job of like pulling it all together. And he's like, Shrina, this goes with this. And when you do this and this, it unblocks this.
Yeah, and exactly.
And from there, like my mind was just like my experience at the ashram was every day there was like a new chakra just being unblocked. Mm-hmm. Every day. So then when I came back here, I was like, I am so open that I have to find a way to impart this correctly.
Yeah. With longevity, right? Because
yes,
that's
without any kind of commercialization to it. Because when I came here and I observed yoga, and I'm not saying everyone is doing this, absolutely not. I'm not saying this.
Yeah.
But the way I was seeing it commercialized, like, I'm going to throw it out there and just say like beer yoga and like goat yoga and wine night yoga. And I was like,
and it's so silly, right? Like that's the draw. It's like, oh, that's silly. Beer yoga.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll drink some beers and then laugh about what I'm doing.
Yeah. I'll go, yeah.
And
it was one of those
I
things.
guarantee there are people who are like, yeah, beer yoga. And they take it serious, and they're like, I'm going to drink some beers and I'm going to rock this yoga class. And, I think with the exception of goat yoga, that's just super silly. You can't do anything.
Unless you own a farm and you're just doing yoga out there with your own goats. Like I do yoga with my cat, but I'm not like Shrina and Bella, yoga time. Like it's like she shows up whenever she wants. Like she'll just walk across the room, or like tear up my yoga mat. But it's not like I'm not advertising it this way. Bella might come and sit on your lap during Shavasana. I don't. It's just when I watch these things happen, it's like a deep hurt. It's a deep pain to, like for someone who comes from this lineage, like who comes from this culture where it's like it's very innate. And I'm not saying that all South Asian people are given this. Or like I was very fortunate that my father is well versed in this, and that's where I am today.
And that's like what I said at the beginning, right? Like your clear dharma of through your upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it makes it difficult when you're like hearing that or seeing it and you're like, how do I exist here in this space? And then you just come to a place where you are at peace with yourself and you go, I am just here to do what I am going to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing that Vishwaji says too, right? He says all yoga is good yoga. And so a profound realization that I had with understanding what yoga is, and, you know, we had a chat a couple days ago, and I brought up that idea that it's consciousness itself, right? It's this unifying consciousness, and that all yoga is encompassed within what yoga is in totality, right? So what kind of sprouts out of it is just its intelligence inherently, from something so basic and beginner to something so advanced and beyond, right? Where, you know, you have Himalayan monks that are dedicated, living in a cave, living in the wilderness somewhere, and really focusing in on the gravity of yoga as awareness, right? Where then you have on the other side of the spectrum in the West, where it's like, yeah, beer yoga and goat yoga. Yeah, let's get as many people to yoga as possible. So I think in the grand scheme of the consciousness of yoga, I think you have these pillars within it that act as guiding forces to how yoga gets into the world. And so, as silly and ridiculous as it is, it could help someone who goes to beer yoga and be like, I don't think I should be drinking beer anymore. I should be going to yoga more. And that actually helps them steer into yoga, right? And so this realization was that it's important to realize what pillar you're on as a practitioner. Am I going to be in the pillar that just gives out yoga to the general public, that is just silly and whatever, just to like kind of unconsciously be in the whim of that whirlwind? Or do I ground myself into pillars that I feel are more reflective to the wholesomeness of the synchronicities that I've went through, right? So with Vishwaji and his lineage, and seeing that I'm actually placed on this kind of totem of yoga in a different place as to what I want to transmit, right? So if it's through a podcast and through yoga classes and through fundraisers, I know that if I were to talk to Vishwaji and be like, hey, I'm doing these things, what do you think? He's going to be more inclined to show me support than just kind of laugh at it, right? If I were to be like, hey, Vishwaji, I'm going to go do goat yoga. What do you think of it? He'll be like,
the goats are not necessary.
Yeah, he's like,
but
okay,
hurry home. Yeah.
You know? But if I'm like, hey, Vishwaji, I have this fundraiser that I'm going to do, and I want to team up with people, and I want to help support these organizations, most likely he's going to be like, great, yes, that's good, right? And the energy exchange is going to be completely different, right? And that's where I feel why also Vishwaji is more of my teacher than what the Swami was, right? Because at no point would I would ever be able to contact him. He was like contactless, right? And so knowing that I can reach out to Vishwaji whenever and be like, hey, this is my idea, this is what I'm doing, what do you think, right? I actually you know, told stories about my travels to India in my book, right? And I actually quote Vishwaji at the end, because he gave out cards with the Akhanda mantra, and he had a translation of it. So at the very end, I put in the Akhanda mantra and like quote his translation of it, just to like end the book, you know? And so I think that's what yoga can unveil to the practitioner, is eventually you go deep enough into it and you commit yourself and you get initiations, right? Because I think that's what it is for us, right? Getting the name, doing the teacher trainings, seeing this master, we're going through these initiations. And I think for myself, I just wholeheartedly dove into it and recognized when I came back to my life that I have a whole other world to attend to. It's like, oh, I also have my Dharma with my family, and like family business, and working with my brother, and I have now a fiance, and I have all these worldly things that are happening, and it's just like this light is in there that's like yoga, and it's always on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no reason to say that it has to be dumbed down or anything. Okay, sorry, I have to go back to the other thing. I think it's a responsibility for teachers to uphold what they were taught.
Yeah.
I feel like I know what you're saying when, somebody may go to a goat yoga class, which is so harmless, right? Like it's other animals. It's like another soul in the room. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But when you're adding substances that are clouding your inability to go inwards, there's a natural issue here, right? Because it's not the path of yoga at all. But now you're using yoga or you're using the substance as a catalyst to make money.
Yeah.
And then you're adding yoga to it because it's like the new thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is dangerous. And I do have to say something here because there's a whole collective of yoga teachers, like South Asian yoga teachers who are really discussing this right now. That if it's coming from India and you're using it for the sole purpose of making money and you're doing it in this way, it is appropriation.
Yeah, exactly.
It is absolutely appropriation, because now you're mixing two things that do not work well together, that do not belong together.
Yeah.
And that is very dangerous when you're teaching, when you're opening people up in yoga. It's a very vulnerable journey.
Oh, yeah.
And you're doing this when
times.
yes, you open things up and you're like, I'm discovering things about me.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that and, they have substances involved and whatnot, like now you're in a position of abusing that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And that is some serious business. That is no different to me than a swami.
Yeah.
In Thailand.
Yeah.
Like I have to say this very bluntly because I don't want to see the structure of yoga crumble in any shape or form in the West. Because I think that there is a huge drive right now. I think there's a lot of good yoga teachers doing a lot of great things. And they're helping their communities. They're helping their inner circles. They're discussing their ancestral healing. Like there's so much work to be done that this thing about commercializing yoga is just like a gross stunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be allowed, and we shouldn't. As yoga teachers, I know that we're always supposed to be in this like keeping peace, but that's not what this is about. Like you're a spiritual warrior in a sense, right? You have to say something when you see something that is going against your own teachings. Like when we were in the ashram, like there was always this conversation of like, you are upholding the yamas, the niyamas. This is why you learn them. You learn them for a reason. They're like the foundation of your own practice. So when you instill them to your students, you're going, here are the 8 limbs of yoga. Here is what we're aware of. Here's what we're not aware of. Here's how ego plays in. And this is we're going to work through a sequence of asanas to help you kind of unblock that so you can see more clear into yourself. And when you're able to guide someone like that, you're also helping them to guide their community and their circles, which is what we do for ourselves, right? Like I don't start with everybody out there. I start with my family. I actually started teaching my mom, my dad, my sister-in-law, my brother first. And then I actually went out into my friends' circles, and then they brought their friends, and I started with my community.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then I started teaching like workshops, and my friends supported me, my family supported me and said, this is beautiful. Like I have discovered this about myself because of what you've taught me. And I felt like, good, if I can help my people, now I can be more, I feel like I am ready to step out and help more people. But I have to start with me first, right? It's this whole activism journey that we're all on. And as yoga teachers, as I call us spiritual warriors, to be very honest, because ego is a big thing we all need to overcome.
Yeah.
And in order to really, truly heal the world, and this is my perspective, of course, in order to really, truly heal the world, we need to heal ourselves.
Yeah, and
help heal each other.
And that's unique to each person, right? And I think that ultimately for me is what yoga has helped me understand is that it can provide the opportunity for healing through your own intuition and guidance and intelligence that not many other systems allow for, right? Because of dogma or institutionalization or whatever manipulation, where when you have a set of postures, a set of breathing techniques, mantras and yantras, you have this toolkit of how to assess your body and your mind and your emotions that you can just use on your own. And when you apply those over time and suddenly you see this transformation happening, you see that there's a responsibility with utilizing that. And it's so interesting how it's almost natural that the guidance is, okay, show other people this because of the potency of the realizations within it. And that's why I really gravitated to Akhanda and wanted to uphold it wholeheartedly, where instead of going and doing teacher trainings and being like, okay, now I'm going to create my own yoga school, I'm going to create my own yoga practice, and I'm going to market that as my own thing. But I just took all the teachings from these other schools that are so much more authentic and so much more real, right? So, and that probably is my own bias, right? That is just like Akhanda is the most legit yoga school in the world. Like, I just think that, like,
because of the experiences you've had.
Yeah, exactly. And so the best thing that I can do is really stick to it as a practice and teaching it. And the thing that I do create my own is from my own realizations that has nothing to do with cherry picking from the school itself, right? And that's what a lot of people do. They'll like learn the manuals, right, and how they structured it, and they go to the YA and they're like, oh, I'm going to create my own teacher training manual, and then they just kind of copy and paste, right? And I just learned that right from the get-go. I was like, I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to teach a teacher training, I'll just teach Akhanda because it's already there and I don't have to spend the time trying to create my own. So
and it's also like appropriation in a form.
So I was like, if I am going to create my own, what is the content, right? And that's where future life progression came out of, because then I am formulating a meditation that is unique in and of itself and is kind of my own creation, right? But the tricky thing is meditation is meditation, right? It's all the same. But I day by day just look at doing the best that I can to represent yoga as wholeheartedly as possible. And so that the new way that I'm getting into it and this new responsibility is now I only have a handful of students that have come into my life synchronistically, and I'm teaching them things for free for the most part. My violin teacher is doing a trade with me where I teach her yoga and she teaches me violin. A childhood friend came back into my life, and I said to him, the condition of our friendship now is that you're doing yoga and you're meditating and you're wanting to go on this, trajectory of changing your life. And it totally changed our friendship to the better, And then other friends have just reached out to me and they're like, hey, do you have like a practice that I can do or something? And I, whipped up a video and sent it to them. So I'm just allowing it to come into my life like that, where I'm aware that studios are opening up. And I've just been thinking to myself, how can I approach the situation now in a different light where maybe I can do things that are more meaningful and impactful than just, okay, I'm going to take this class and I'm going to teach it to, 15 strangers. And, I'm probably going to get paid, $45, $50 for it, and dope. Then I'm going to move on with my life. Right. But now I'm just seeing there's an opportunity here, and why not go with this new wave of yoga that's coming, right? That I think is evident, but I think we were talking about it a little bit in our conversation a couple of days ago. And it really just came out of research that I did, right? Like Though Vishwaji is my teacher, I found just naturally because of the language barrier that my brain wants him to explain everything to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the reality. The reality is through his presence, and that the more powerful transmission is just understanding that he is a presence. And I learned that from him coming to my dreams and having that vision. Like, I've had numerous dreams with Vishwaji where he shows me and tells me things that are super deep, right?
Have you asked him about him? Is he just like, no?
So this can actually continue the story of the teacher training. So a year later, he comes to Prana, right? He does his workshop. I do a workshop with him. And at the end of the workshop, I was like, well, I guess I'll see you in another year. And he looked at me. He's like, or in your dreams. I was just like, oh my God. And just continued to have dreams with him.
Yeah.
Like, it just happens, you know?
Full circle.
Oh, just so hilarious.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So, yeah. So I just kind of lost track of my thoughts there, laughing.
So your new way of discovering it is like doing fundraisers.
Oh yeah. So what also came into my life was Yogananda, and Yogananda, his lineage of Kriya Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went deep into that. So I have all their books and have studied their works. The only one that I haven't studied is Lahiri Mahasaya. So essentially in the 1800s in, where would this have been? I think this is northern India. But essentially you have Yogananda and his guru Sri Yukteswar, and then his guru Lahiri Mahasaya. And then their like Padam Guru, Babaji, right? Mm-hmm. Who is this like infamous enlightened yogi that goes all over India, and there's stories of him in like every sect, right? And I went really deep into that, and I see them as my teachers too. So when I do my practice, I have like this council of yogis who to me are legit enlightened beings that existed in our time, and they had a knowledge and they had an understanding, and they actually created the first wave of yoga, right? Mm-hmm. It all came from Babaji of telling Lahiri Mahasaya, who then through Sri Yukteswar told Yogananda to go to the West, right? And that he had this whole support. And so when I look into the history of yoga and I look at these events, I just put them together in my own mind and I make these kind of conclusions. Well, if they were the first ones, right, then the second wave was Krishnamacharya and BKS Iyengar and Patabi Joyce and Bikram, right? That was the material yoga wave. And I think this totally can be a conspiracy theory. I don't even know. This is just the way that my mind thinks, is that when Yogananda came, he set a precedence for the kind of influence that a philosophical Indian mystic can have on the Western mind, right? Because when he came, he was like fluent in English, which was
rare. Yeah.
Well, not only that, he in the autobiography of a yogi, he states that when he got into the boat to get to America, he didn't know English, and then his guru just came in, was like, you know it, and then he could just speak fluent English, and then he was doing discourses to the shipmates, and he was telling them about Kriya Yoga and about Jesus and how it relates to the Vedas, and that you can actually find lines in the Vedas that match the New Testament. And it's Sri Yukteswar actually wrote in his book, in the Holy Science, he actually has comparisons of the Vedas and the New Testament. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing book. It's super powerful. But Yogananda set a precedence because he came to America, and over 15 years of being there, he initiated 100,000 people, where Swami Vivekananda, he was the predecessor, right? So he came before, and he did a lecture to I think 6,000 people. He was only in America for like a couple of years and left. Where Yogananda came and was just this huge influence, right? And so Yogananda was in contact with a lot of super rich businessmen in America and like scholars, because he came suddenly, he's just fluent, he's just super charismatic and dynamic man, and he's powerful, right? That he was given lectures all over America of thousands and thousands of people in universities, which then is what allowed him to actually start to initiate people into Kriya Yoga and to create the Self-Realization Fellowship. And what I think happened is that the American government knew this, right? Because they're like, who is this dude? And so when he passed away, when the next wave of yoga came, I think there was this understanding that it could be capitalized on. And I think the idea of capitalizing yoga didn't actually come from like Krishna Macharya and BKS Iyengar and them. I think they wholeheartedly actually were like, we need to continue spreading yoga because that's our dharma, and that's what's pulsating out of India right now, right? That when they came, the idea for commercializing and how to spread it came from people who were like business magnates, right? And they were like, yeah, and developed the whole world of yoga in that way of commercializing it. But I think it was very necessary, because that's what actually just like boom spread, like millions of people within a couple decades, right? Where now we're leading up to like hundreds of millions of people around the world that are doing yoga.
It's also probably the state of the world when they first came to the West. It was like people were hungry to feel love. Yeah. Like it's also part of that is like just the environment that you're dropping into. Like if an environment is starved for compassion and love and joy, and that's what the people need. Like, I mean, even coming out of COVID, it's like not just coming out of COVID. It's like Black Lives Matter has happened. Like we've seen Asian hate. It's just like now we're seeing Muslim hate, like there's so much hatred towards Muslims, I should say. There's just so much hatred and like ignorance. And I feel like when there's a dip like that, there's like an opposite reaction of like, no, we need more compassion, especially people who are holers, like who are light healers, spiritual warriors, who are teachers, who are guiders, with that hold this knowledge of how to bring people back into a community, and that community can now become a force of good, whatever you want to call that good. So we're having this opposite reaction happening, like that duality is it's a natural phenomenon that happens in our in like the human evolution. It is a constant. It's another pattern that repeats itself. Yeah. So I feel like when these guys are dropping down, like, I mean, America's probably like, who are these colored dudes just like running around, like spreading all this love, like, of course. And then when they leave and it's like, oh, the people are now feeling like we need more of that. That was really good. Like I got my endorphins rushing. Like I am loving again. I am feeling that love, which is what I need. And so then you do have this like boom, and then yoga explodes in the West. Yeah. And I think the commercialization happens because everyone wants to be like on this train now. Like, I can't say, like, I know this is your opinion, and, my opinion is that I don't know what they came to do. Like, I know that they came here to spread the knowledge of yoga. Yeah. That is obvious. Well, that's the thing. It's, you're mixing with business people, scholar people. Like, I feel like that's all. It doesn't matter what your title is. I feel like everyone is starved for love. At that time, the climate of the world was filled with ignorance and hatred. Yeah. There's so much ego at the front. Like we were fighting wars. Our economy was dying. Like people are struggling. Your basic needs are not met. So when you have a little bit of love and compassion, like you look at, poor people in India, and it's like they have very little and they're still smiling and happy. And not to say that that is okay or something. It is not. Yeah. But sometimes when you see people who are very little, they're content. I don't want to say they're happy, because that I am in no place to say that. That is probably inappropriate to say.
Yeah.
We should probably just take this whole part out. But but there's like something about that, right? Like people are in need of that compassion. We've always needed it.
Yeah.
And I think yoga filled that void.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is like, I think except for Iyengar, like Pattabhi Jois and Bikram, were abusive, right? Mm. And it's coming out more and more of the way that they treated women, right? And that is something that I faced when I made my decision between the Swami in Thailand and Vishwaji, was that the Swami was doing that, you know, like he was taking advantage of women. He didn't even have a spiritual practice anymore. He didn't have a meditation. He was just like, he needed to have like 3 women a day, right? And different ones all the time. And it's just so disgusting. Yeah. Right. And so it made it really easy to look at Vishwaji and be like, he's so traditional and he's got 2 kids, you know, and so he understands the importance of family, and he is so wholeheartedly authentic that when I look into the past and I look at these ways of yoga and I look at the influence and I see then what can be expected of this next wave, is that rather than idealizing these yogis because they're doing these fantastic moves,
but you don't really know them.
Yeah, and you don't really know them, right? So they're so incredibly like gifted in that because they're so flexible and they're so strong, and they're spouting this knowledge that's, you know, seemingly so deep that then now you have someone like Vishwaji who has recognized all that, because I've talked to him about this stuff too, and he studied all of that stuff too. He studied all the yoga that came to America, and he did it purposely because he knows how he has to do it differently, right? And why it was important to you know, have the family that he has and to come to Canada and to make this bridge, because that's what he said, is like he made a bridge between Canada and India. And now he has tens of thousands of Akhanda yoga teachers, right? And I guarantee if we actually did a survey and we got the emails of every single one and we asked like, hey, can you do this little survey of how Vishwaji has treated you? Every single one of them in the end are going to say, yeah, he was really good. I don't doubt that there are people who have qualms with him, because I know personally one who is in my teacher training that just hates Vishwaji now. And it's so sad to see, because I was like, oh man, like you're such a great guy, right? Like we did practicum tests together and stuff, you know? And but just how his life turned out and the decisions that he made are just seemingly unfavorable, and so he's been casting that on Vishwaji, like like Vishwaji took it away from him, right? And
at the end of the day, they're all just relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But in my mind, I just think, I know that there's a majority of people who had beautiful experiences and can rightfully say that they had a transformational experience and that their life changed, and they don't feel like they're in a cult. You know, they don't feel like they're following some guy because they have to, right? Or that he put some trance on them and they are selling everything. That was the first thing he ever says. He's like, go back home. You know, like,
go teach yoga.
I'm like, I don't have followers. He's like, I have friends. I'm too busy, you know? And that is so inspiring. And so I look at that then, well, if I want to have more recognition in this world of what I do, that's what I want to emulate, right?
Yeah, because he's actually walking his path.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can't speak. I mean, I don't know Vishwaji so personally well that I can speak for him, and I know him or something. But I can also look at him and say, this is a man who has followed his path. That is simply who he is. He is a man. He is a simple man who has followed his path, and he keeps joy and bliss in his heart, and he shares that with everyone. And I think that is just beautiful. He's just a person being.
Yeah.
He doesn't try to make himself like, I am this thing and I will now travel and, you know, like I don't know, on motorcycle or horseback or whatever and spread this gospel. Like, he's like, I am living my life. Like, I'm raising kids. I am running this school. I'm running this nonprofit organization, Helping Hands for India. Like, I'm giving back to the larger community. He is just being. Yeah. And I think that is the one piece that he said over and over, but that's the one thing that I definitely took back. And I wake up and I remind myself every day. I'm like, Shrina, today you are just going to be. Yeah. And you are going to be fully in your light and your love, and you're going to be that for you first, and it will naturally radiate out. My second name, Abba, Krishna Abba. Abba just means like brilliance and splendor and like luminous light. Wow. And I remember just asking Vishwaji, I'm like, well, so like, you know, it was a big question. I was like, so what do we do now that we leave the ashram? Like, what is the grand mission? And he just laughed. And like, he knew I was kind of poking fun. Like, he could tell from my tone. He was like, oh, Shrina's being a little shit starter. Like, this is who she is. She's a little Krishna, right? So, and he kind of looked at me. He's like, just go teach yoga and go live your life. And he said to me, he's like, and be happy. Yeah. That was his big message to me, was like, just be happy.
Yeah, because it'll all unfold, right? That's why he says, like, things are happening. Yeah. Right? Like, things are happening, and you just go with it, right? And that's so humbling about the process and the commitment to it. And that's what I remind myself as well, is that, you know, when I look at my tattoo and I look at Shiva, and I say to myself, like, yeah, like, this is for the rest of my life, and I'm totally okay with that. And I don't have to worry about the advancement of the progress, you know? Like, I don't have to worry that, like, oh, I need to keep going to India. I need to keep going and doing these things. It's just like, it you know, it'll just happen, and it'll happen when it happens. And that is what gives it all time to breathe, you know? And that was a challenging lesson to me, because I came out of it like a bull out of the gates, you know? I was just like, I'm teaching yoga. I already know the studio, and I'm like in it, and I'm teaching, and I just, you know, and I went right into it and taught consistently for 8 years. Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, you were prana for quite some time.
Yeah. Until the pandemic, and then that changed everything. And I was like, you know what? I just have injuries, and I don't feel good about teaching right now, and I just think I need to recalibrate. I need to rethink what I'm doing in
You've
this
been doing
world.
so much of this.
Yeah, and then I just depleted out. And so it's I think for me it's really important that I just follow this new trajectory, you know, and see who comes into my life, right? Because I don't want to go too much into it, because it's still very fresh, but the little fundraiser that we were talking about and where it's going to go. Yeah. And that, I feel, is like my next emergence.
Yeah. We can plant the seed right here. Yeah.
And see where it goes from there. You know, ultimately for me, what I think is missing in the world, I know there's the Yoga Association, right? And it's this place where you can officiate your yoga practice, right? Essentially, you can make teacher trainings and workshops and stuff. You can be registered with them. But I just don't think there's a yoga council, you know? Like, there isn't this group of individuals. And the hard thing about that is that because it's so asana based right now, and it's so geared into the physical, that it's like, who is the council going to be of? Just people who can be the most flexible, right? Like Instagram yogis the influencers. Yeah. But it's like, but when I think of it, it's like, no, it would be someone like Vishwaji. It would be someone like Sadhguru. It'd be someone like Muji. It would be these people that are already in the world, that are actually great advocates and influencers for yoga itself. Like, there's this fellow named Yogi Raj Satgurunath Siddhanath, and he's this brilliant man. He wrote a really amazing book. I'm book changed my life.
Okay, let me see this book.
So here's the funny thing. I found this book in the ashram, okay? Out of all the books,
really?
I see this book. And I'm like, no way this is in the ashram, okay? So when I'm doing the 300
Why
hour,
no way?
Because of its direct lineage to Yogananda. And so he's a Kriya yogi, and he's like part of the Knot lineage. And so he's like super into Babaji. And so this is like the history of Babaji in this book. And the funny thing is that when I was doing the teacher training, I kind of stopped studying the material, and I was only reading that book.
You're like, I've decided to go my own path.
And I read that book in like 3 weeks, and people got so mad because they're like, you're not studying? We have things to study for. And I'm like, I'm actually getting so many downloads from this book, and I'm learning so much about yoga that as soon as I step into the class, I just absorb it. So I was a sponge, and I just could absorb everything that they're saying, and I didn't really have to like look at anything. And I would just go in, and I would just know things, right? And people were like, how the hell are you doing it? I was like, well, I think it's this freaking book. So
The Lightning Standing Still by Babaji.
Yeah. So it's by this man here. Where's the camera? It's like super like jovial, powerful.
Yeah, I want
dude.
his photographer.
Yeah. And so there's fellows like this that are from India who are influencing the West, right? Because he is also like Sadhguru in a sense where he has, Western followers, and also like his connection to his like Indian students. And I think that is what the fourth wave is leading into, is that it's going to actually develop a yoga council where there are people that are going to step up who are clearly enlightened beings in how they represent yoga, right? Because that's how I see Vishaji, right? Like, he won't say, oh yeah, I'm an enlightened being, like, check me out, like I can levitate, right? It's just that the people who are in his presence, they get it, right? They're just like, oh yeah, you definitely are, right? And it's in the sense of, because of their depth of practice that they maintain, and they've maintained all their life, that it's just created this powerhouse of just exchange, right? That in their discourse of what they're teaching, embedded in it so deeply and clearly is that presence. And it's so palpable, right? Where when you're just a normal person, you don't really have control over putting your presence into things like that, because there's just so much confusion and manipulation, and we just don't know ourselves, that we don't know how to channel it that way. But then there are these people that really know how to do it, and they have been doing it. And
I think the key is like they've been doing it their whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what inspires me, that maybe I don't reach that in this life. I don't know, right? But I can have the awareness that there's a way to put presence into things that is connected to divinity, right? It's directly divine presence, and there's no ownership of it. It's not like I right now am doing it and I take ownership of it. It's that the practice that's so aligned with it helps it come through when it needs to come through. And for these beings, because they've been doing it all their lives, it's just naturally coming through all the time now. It's like divinity itself has to build a trust. It's like, okay, are you going to be a vessel for me? Because if the ego comes in more than you are listening to the divine that comes through in the intuition, then it's going to be on and off, right?
Yeah, and the way I look at this is, one, that there's always going to be a wave of influencers. I'm just going to call them that, but like, enlightened beings is what you can say as well. Like, there will always be people who will guide the society or the world, the global village in a sense. And we're always going to find those waves happening over and over, especially when like I was saying before, when we dip and then we like pick back up again, that pickup is going to be highlighted by these guides. I don't see them the way I think you see them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not enlightened beings. I'm saying that I don't believe that anyone can be truly enlightened in the world in the yug that we're living in
Yeah.
currently. I don't. But what I do see is there are people who are very good. And by very good, I mean they have practiced and they have put into practice so well and religiously how to condition, how to move the ego out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like you're saying, and I agree with you, that divinity can now become the true driver.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were studying in Krishna consciousness, like there's this, you've probably seen this, the picture of Krishna driving the chariot and Arjun's in the back and he's got the 5 horses.
Yeah. There's at the Parmat Niketan, there's the huge statue of it, like right at the gates,
right
down
at the gates.
into the Ganga.
Yeah.
Like
so
that's so
in Krishna
good.
consciousness, this is like a Sunday school teacher moment for me.
Yeah.
So I would teach the kids, like Krishna is acting like the driver. Krishna is the driver, and the 5 horses represent your 5 senses.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so then
that makes sense.
So then the consciousness is Arjun sitting there, and he's ready to take action. But if the mind is not focusing the 5 senses, there will be like wild horses. Like you're going to be going everywhere. You're not going to have control. And so when you're not in control of your 5 senses, it's easy for your ego to get in the way. It's like, oh, I want this thing. Oh, I'm not good enough. Like, oh, that person looks like this. Oh, I should look like this. Like, like, oh, I should be eating that food. Oh, I should be driving this car. I should be living in this house. And nothing is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a good vessel for any kind of divine knowledge to flow through you, because you've got all your guards up. I mean, you're distracted is what I should say, right? Because your ego is being the driver. Your Krishna is not the driver. Your ego is the driver.
Yeah.
Krishna is like the divine knowledge that is guiding you. So it's like that flip of, so that how I see these enlightened beings is, these guides is they are people who have just practiced their whole life and immerse themselves into this practice, into all the different practices, yoga, meditation, pranayama, like you name it. And these are all different practices on how we can move the ego out of the way so we can flow with like the righteousness of love and light in our heart. And that's why I look at Vishwaji for guidance.
Yeah.
Because I can see that he's not perfect. None of these people are perfect. They're just people.
Yeah.
But they are people who have dedicated their life to this practice. And so if I'm looking for that kind of guidance, I know who I can turn to and go, like they have studied all this ancient knowledge. It is within them. And there's always as a woman, I'm always very careful about who I am downloading this from, because you don't know who is willing to, who is able to take care, truly take care of you, not to take care of you. There's probably a better way of saying that. Who can guide you without any ulterior motive.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is something I don't feel like men come upon very, very much in like history of like.
Because there's
just so much. I think when women come across this, there's a block, there's a barrier, and that has to be there. It's a protection. And I feel like we are always seeing men be guiders, but we're never speaking about the women.
Yeah.
Who are also very much part of this enlightenment wave that is coming now.
Yeah, like Ananda Maima was like huge for
but
that too.
How often do we hear her name?
Yeah, not often.
Right? And there's so many women who are doing so many different types of work. I can't even name any right now, which is very unfortunate. And that speaks a lot right there.
Yeah, there's Gurmukh, from Vishwaji is really good friends with her. She's like a Kundalini kind of like master from
I know who you speak of, yes.
Yeah, Yogi Bhajan's lineage.
There's also a woman in India, in South India, who owns a farm, and she teaches people. Chris actually told me about her. Who actually teaches people how to like live off of the land and farm, and every hour you put in there is all volunteer. And
there's
I feel
Amma.
like that is. There's
Amma. I think it might be Amma. There's another woman named like a nun, like a nun Shiv or. There's a couple different women, but there's Amma, and she has like the hug, like they hug her, and she has this like beautiful hug, and people like break down and cry, and she's just like,
I don't know. I have to figure out that name. I have to give that name out. But there are women who are teaching the way of the world in a sense of like, it's not just the practice you do within, but it's how you're putting this practice into the world and teaching people how to farm, to get back into the earth and to connect with nature again, I think is a really big part of this new wave that I think women are leading. It's like we're seeing all this philosophy being spread, but we're not being taught how to put it into practice. So the way that we're seeing being put into practice is a lot of appropriation because it's tied to capitalism. But then there's these women healers who have this knowledge within them, and they're like, you know, I will teach you, but I will teach you through the practice. And that is how we will learn how to connect back with the earth and heal ourselves by healing the earth. And I think that is a huge wave that is happening right now that I don't think is at the forefront, because we are always putting men at the forefront. Whether they're enlightened beings or, you know, good people, bad people, it doesn't matter. But I think this is the time where this new wave needs to take form with a lot of Shakti force. Like we've always had a very strong Shiva energy, but without Shakti, there is no Shiva.
That's right.
And we need to have that balance. And you know this, your name comprises of both.
So, and I have the Maha Mantra.
I love this.
Tattooed on
and I'm not saying this because my company is Shakti Flow. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm seeing it always as a balance, and especially as a South Asian colored woman, it's so important and it's integral for my community to learn this, for me to pass this on to my generations. But also the world to understand that there needs to be a balance. Like it's not just one or the other. There has to be a balance, and the true healing is actually going to be coming with the merging of the two.
That's right.
And I don't want to say two genders because there's more than two genders.
Forces, right?
But
because
two
it's
energies.
like, like it's
whether you call them Ha or Ta or Yin or
Shiva
Yang
Shakti,
or
right?
Shiv
It's
and
dynamic
Shakti.
forces,
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Which is a lot of, when you brought up Tantra in the beginning, I kind of like, I have to like take a back seat in that conversation because Tantra has been so misappropriated. And the front focus of that has always been like, oh, sex. It's not like, and it has nothing to do, I mean, yes, it's a very small part of Tantra, but it's not the full. It comes from Shaktiism. There's so much big conversation, and I don't want to take us on a tangent, but that's all I will say about that is like, we need a whole new episode on that.
I think we'll actually wrap it up here. We had an amazing conversation. There's
just so great.
So many good points. I'm so happy I was able to sit down with you.
Me too.
So maybe tell people where they can find you on social media. And I'll have links for everything as well too, so people can directly get to you. But just if you want to share where you're most active.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at Shakti Flow YEG. So Shakti SHAKTI Flow, as in like the water or the elements. .org. We're essentially a dance and yoga company, a movement company, and we work to empower individuals through movement, whether it's through dance or yoga. So I use both as a catalyst right now to empower people, to help people push out of their own limiting beliefs. And
do you have any
we're on Instagram and the website was shaktiflow.org. Instagram is shaktiflow YEG. You'll have the links up.
Any events or anything that are coming up?
We are going to have a workshop in August. And then I'm on my own personal journey as a dancer, as a movement teacher right now, and I'm doing some healing performances. So there's some upcoming performances in July that you can find on Instagram. And then Zoran, you can probably link this, but it's
for sure.
Shri_Ness. But we'll just put that in. That's too much to remember.
Perfect.
But so a lot of performances coming up that it's around healing the womb. So that's the work that I've been doing since February is how to, especially for women again, like how to unblock all this tension and this negative energy around women's sensuality and sexuality. Like we don't talk about that enough. I'm doing this a lot for myself, but I'm also, of course, I feel like it resonates into the journey of a colored woman. And like having all those energies always dumbed down or stifled or stagnant and just told like you can't use any of this. And it's really and then there's this like expectation of like, got to get married, got to have kids, you got to do this. And it's like, well, nothing's been working. So, you know, there's a lot of healing that colored women need to do as a collective right now. So healing the womb is a very personal project for me. But I will be sharing that in July with a performance with Ignite Festival.
Nice.
So that's going to be coming up. Yep. Just finished a dance residency with Mile Zero Dance. I have to give them a shout out because that was a good healing journey for me into the work of healing the womb.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy.
Hariom.
Hariom.